Hey guys, it's Bank about PC Gaming here, about to get into some American Truck Simulator. So let's quickly go through the settings, since I haven't played this game at 3440 by 1440. So all settings are maxed out, as you can see. Unfortunately, this game doesn't support SLI natively. You do have to use NVIDIA Inspector to kind of remedy that and use the Euro Truck 2 Simulator profile. It works just fine. So you do get some scaling. It's not 100% scaling, but it's enough scaling anyway. So I'm driving a Kenworth truck. Solely picked it on design. I'm not too sure if these trucks have individual stats or anything like that. Quickly give you a look at the interior of the truck. They do vary. My last one was a bit better than this. It had a wood grain finish and even had like a cabin at the back. So this one doesn't. So I'm not too sure what model this is. But anyway, I've got to take this all the way down to Arizona. It's quite a long drive, so I think I'll talk to you about a few thoughts that I've had in the meantime. So obviously there's been quite a few leaks about AMD Vega lately. One being that we know there's going to be 3 variants of Vega now. So the C1, C2 and C3 variants. And C1 would be the flagship, I believe. So far there hasn't been any evidence of any Vega GPUs exceeding 8GB of HBM2, which is not exactly a massive deal. 8GB is still doing a decent job of every game regardless of the resolution, but it would be nice to see HBM at 16GB. That would just be awesome. Since I've dropped down to 3440 by 1440, I would say one GTX 1080 is not quite enough, but you don't necessarily need 2 GTX 1080s to get by. If Vega somehow is faster than the GTX 1080 Ti, but let's say around, this guy's actually been nice and let me pass, so I'm gonna go. Actually I can't, there's oncoming traffic. That would just be a bit stupid, so I'll go back in and let him go past. So yeah, if Vega somehow is around 20 to 15% faster than the GTX 1080 Ti, I would find a hard time resisting getting one and swapping out my 2 GTX 1080s. Sorry about that, I forgot to put my phone on silent. And that would probably be all the performance I would need at 3440 by 1440, as I've only got a 100Hz monitor, and surely that would do the job. One thing I am a bit curious though is what the pricing will be and why it's taking so long for AMD to basically come to bringing this thing to market. When the GTX 1080 got launched back in June 2016, you know, a lot of people were saying wait for Vega, don't jump on the GTX 1080. We'll go now, the road's clear. So they were like, don't jump on the GTX 1080, wait for Vega. It's now almost a full year since it's been released and it's still not here, so it is, you gotta wonder, why is it taking so long? Is it because HBM2 wasn't ready, or is it because it's, you know, taken a long time to actually perfect the actual architecture? AMD have been speaking about a lot of changes that they've made to the architecture. Apparently this is built from the ground up, so I'm very excited to see how this will perform over any other AMD GPU release I can remember in recent years. I was quite excited about the Fury X, but you know how that turned out. It is doing pretty well nowadays, to be fair, but it was kind of an underwhelming launch. I mean, HBM was a bit, let's just say it was a bit overestimated on what it would bring to GPU gaming. We now know that standard GDDR5X can pretty much give you high results, so you need to have HBM running pretty fast as well, not just relying on the massive bandwidth that it provides. So HBM2 will be double the speed of HBM1, I believe, so it'll be interesting to see if that makes all the difference in gaming. And I'm excited for it. It's meant to be coming out in June now, or the end of June. I think Lisa Zhu, the CEO and president of AMD, have said, but whether they can actually keep to that timetable is another story. Hopefully they do, because it has been a long time coming now. And I still think it's a bad idea to leave NVIDIA unchecked in the high-end GPU market for so long without an answer. They have been able to release the GTX 1050, 1060, 1070, 1080, 1080 Ti, Titan X and Titan XP, with NVIDIA only, AMD only been able to bring out the RX 460, 470, 480, and now the 580 and 570. So not too much movement in the market, and not too much to choose from the red team. So hopefully these 3 variants of Vega will change things up. I don't know if some of you guys can recall, but I did make a video previously, I think it was back in January, when the Vega performance on Doom got released, showing that it was doing well over 60 frames per second at 4K. At this point in time we weren't sure what version of Vega it was, but we did know it had HBM2 and it was 8 GB worth. The representative that was speaking on the video did claim it was the flagship model, so that's all we had to go on at that point in time. So I did a comparison showing that it's not really breaking any boundaries, and that a GTX 1080 can achieve similar performance. And for Vega, being in that game, we all know that AMD does exceedingly well, and for it not to be demolishing the GTX 1080 did raise a few alarm bells for myself. A lot of people took offense to me doing a comparison with information that was actually put out by the company themselves, which makes me scratch my head. There is a thing called speculation and just general comparison. Sure, we know it's not the finished Vega, it's not the final silicon. It could be just a test design. We don't know if they've dialed in the final clocks, and especially not having the final drivers, but we can only work with what we have available. So that's what I did. But since then we've had some new information with the new benchmarks. As recently as a few days ago, I saw some 5-stripe benchmarks from a C1 variant of Vega running at 1200 MHz and 700 MHz on the memory, which claimed to be around the performance or just under the performance of the GTX 1080. So I predicted back in that video in January that Vega probably wouldn't blow away the GTX 1080, but would be will be trading blows depending on the game. So far that still seems to be the case. We're not too sure if they've got one that is going to compete with the 1080 Ti, but at this point it does seem that they have a Vega GPU to compete with the 1070 and 1080. I still haven't seen a Vega GPU showing performance of the 1080 Ti and the Titan XP. I'm not saying there isn't one that exists, but I haven't seen any evidence of that yet. But I'd love to see it, because this GPU market does need to shake up. We got the Titan X in a league of its own, £1,000 and above, and you have to be quite a serious person to invest in that much money on a single GPU. We've also got the GTX 1080 Ti, which is kind of in a league of its own at the £700 mark. You can get them from as low as $650 in the UK now, which is good. It's kind of in its league of its own, because you can now get the 1080 for $500 and the 1070 for $350. So I think if AMD can come in with a card that sandwiches between a 1080 and a 1080 Ti and sell it for $500, they'll be in for a win. For me, that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. If they do have a Titan XP killer or a 1080 Ti killer, would selling it at the same price be enough? I mean, they could try and undercut it by around $50 or £50. It would be interesting to see what they do with the pricing as well as the actual performance itself. I think the actual hardware itself may not be fast enough to beat what NVIDIA is best offering, but with the card being a ground up build, I think it may have some features that don't solely need it to rely on just compute performance and the amount of megahertz that the car's running at. Cooling as well is a bit of a mystery. We're not sure if it's going to be with a AIO cooler like it was with the Fury X, or there have been some rumours about it being passively cooled possibly. Who knows what's going to happen with it, but I'm probably the most excited I've ever been for an AMD GPU release than I've been in a long time. Anyway, enough about Vega. Let's talk a little bit about the performance of this game. So GPU utilization with the 1080s are fluctuating quite a bit. The GPU load I haven't seen hit 99% on both cards at any stage since I've been driving, and we are maintaining good frames per second. That is obviously the final outcome is what we want, a good frames per second range. So I'm in the 100 frames per second, which pleases me greatly since I do have a 100Hz monitor. And as far as simulator games go, this does look actually pretty good, to be honest. They are quite plain games, nothing too graphically demanding, because, you know, they don't expect you to have a super high-end system just to play a simulator game. But it does look pretty good, especially when you max it out at this resolution. So I think this road has a 75 miles per hour speed limit. I'm kind of driving like a granny at the moment, but driving and talking is a bit distracting, so I'm not putting my foot down at this time. But a lot of people have been asking me why I haven't got the 1080 Ti. I thought I'd use this opportunity to address that as well. I currently have two GTX 1080s at present, which means I've got, you know, when a game scales well and supports multi-GPU, I arguably have more performance than any single GPU on the market. Saying that, I used to game at 4K, which actually made me go with this choice. So this is just making sure I don't miss my turning. So yeah, that's the reason I went with the two 1080s, because if I did originally have a 3440x1440 monitor, I would have probably sold my 1080 and just upgraded to a 1080 Ti at the point of its release. But I did it kind of back to front, went 4K, and then chose to go 3440x1440, just really for the bigger screen and the higher refresh rate. So I'm now in a 30 miles per hour zone, and I've just got myself a ticket for speeding. So this is a 25 miles per hour zone, so I do need to slow down a little. Taking a left now. I've just got to wait for this to go past. Don't want to crash into anyone. The 1080 Ti for myself now wouldn't really increase my experience, because I'm already getting very decent frames per second on a single GTX 1080 at 3440x1440. There are a few games that the 1080 Ti would greatly exceed a single 1080, but they're far and few in between at this resolution, to be honest. So if AMD can come out with a card that's 20 to 25% faster than the 1080 Ti, I would definitely be up for buying that, that's for sure. So I think I may be close to my destination now. I'm not too sure how long I've got left. I think it's 70 miles, and I've got to stay at 25 miles per hour, which sucks, so I'm pretty much crawling at this point. But yeah, this game's pretty fun. I'm using a gamepad as well, so I'm not exactly getting the full experience like some of you hardcores out there with the 360 degree lock wheels. I have a 90 degree lock controller, which isn't great. I mean, that wheel is only 90 degrees and doesn't really offer a great experience over the control pad, in my opinion. So I'm sticking with my Xbox 360 controller for now, which is fit for purpose. It does the job, so I'm happy enough. Oh, that was close. This is a 65 miles per hour road, but it's got loads of twists, so I don't want to go too fast. I was also looking at some of the benchmarks for that new Prey game. I might get Prey, I'm not too sure yet. I didn't actually play the first one, so I might go back and play the first one first before I make any decision on buying the second one. And it would seem that this is the first game that the Ryzen CPU generally has a performance boost over the Intel CPU, so that's interesting. This might be a glimpse into the future. What Ryzen can bring to the table. Did have a bit of a shaky start in terms of gaming. Multi-threaded performance has always been great on that CPU. 1800X and 1700X. 1600X seems to be the best CPU for gaming at this time. 6 cores, 12 threads, and it doesn't break the bank. So AMD have done well on that front. I think their CPUs are definitely going to bring them in a lot of money as time goes by, but it all depends if Vega can add to that combination. If Vega can be a success, and I think AMD is legit back in the game, I hope so, because NVIDIA are pretty much taking the piss with their prices. That's something I would never play down. I'm not happy about paying the prices I pay for my GPUs, but you can either sit around crying about it, or you just front the money and get what you want, and I've chosen to do the latter. So I think I'm nearly at my destination now. I've got to take this right. It's been a really long drive, so I'm kind of rambling on now, but there are some things I want to talk about, and that's definitely one of them. Obviously everyone's excited about high definition, high dynamic range as well. I myself did have plans on acquiring one of those monitors, but once I saw what the prices possibly could be in the £1,500 to £2,000 range, I just called it a day and got myself an Acer 100Hz 3440x1440 ultra wide monitor, because that is way too much money to be paying for a 4K screen. I know high dynamic range is quite awesome, it's not something that I'm trying to play down, but for that kind of money, one, you're not going to have a GPU that's going to push 144 Hz at 4K, and it's probably the best course of action would be to wait for that technology to become more mainstream. Let's just say dropping down to the £1,000 mark, and at that time we should have a GPU that can take advantage of 4K, at least getting 120 frames per second on most games. So I think the best course of action is to wait till that technology is a bit more mainstream before running out and grabbing it. I feel the same with VR as well. VR is obviously something that's going to be around, but grabbing it now when there's no games and the technology is relatively new, I don't think it's a good choice. So waiting is definitely going to be the best option for everyone. So I've just discovered the Grand Canyon Village. I think I'm nearing my destination now, so here's the drop point. So we're finally here. Been a long drive. I don't know how many miles I've just completed, but it was a very long drive. I'm gonna take a left here. We made it here in one piece. I don't think I crashed. I did get one speeding ticket, but I can live with that. I'm just gonna do the simple kind of parking, so you do get more experience depending on how you wish to park. So my parking area is just around the corner here. Take this left. Slow down a bit. It's been a good job though. It's been a good day's work. Slow it down. think that would do. I don't think they'll be too picky. Or maybe they will be. Just gotta get it all in the area. Slow. Job done. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and I'll see you soon.